Today, I thought we could do a really fun comparison between two cities. Now, those of you who are watching from either of these two cities are going to have some pretty strong opinions, and I can't wait to see all your comments on this video. So today, where are we going to compare? We are going to compare living in Boise, Idaho and the Treasure Valley to living in Portland, Oregon. Why am I making this video? Well, let me tell you. I have personal experience with this. Having a place in Portland, having a place in the Treasure Valley, I can personally talk about the differences. But what really gets my attention is when people who don't understand that these two cities are kind of different, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but we're going to dive into it. They say to me, oh, you want to go from one part of the Pacific Northwest to another part? Oh, I mean, aren't they the same? Portland, you've got Vancouver, Washington. Isn't that just the same as Boise, Idaho? Before I even made this video, while I was thinking about it, I was laughing because I know, again, if you live in either spot, you are already sitting there with your opinion. So, you know what? This is going to be one of my most fun videos. I'm already excited. That means I know you're excited to watch this video. So you know what to do. Sit down, buckle up, and get ready. Because here we go.
Let's go!
All right. Now, today's video is going to be exciting. I'm excited because I finally got a sunny day in the winter to enjoy going outdoors for a few minutes and not have to wear a down jacket, and I get to make a video for everybody. So we're not indoors, we're outside. Let's make the most of it and enjoy this. Okay, now before I get started, you know what to do. If you are thinking about moving to either place I'm about to talk about in this video, you've got to reach out to me. It's very, very easy. All you do is send me an email, send me a text message, or give me a call on the phone. Okay, you can reach out to me and the team if you are thinking about moving to either place in this video, Boise, Idaho, the Treasure Valley, and anywhere in the surrounding areas, or for those Boiseans, I'm gonna say it, Portland, Oregon. Okay, so, one more thing before we dive in. Don't wanna forget, tap that little subscribe button, click that little bell, and then you'll be notified every time I put out a new video all about these amazing places to live. Now, let's first talk about the similarities. And I know that if you're watching this and you've never been to Boise and you've never been to Portland and you've only seen either one on TV or on YouTube, you don't have such strong opinions. But I know people who are watching this from Portland, Oregon, or anywhere in Multnomah County, and those of you who are watching this from the Treasure Valley, Ada County, anywhere in the surrounding areas, Canyon County, give you a shout out too. And you've got some strong opinions too, but hold on. Let's just talk about some basic similarities. Okay, first, let's start with the very simple one. Both are located in the Northwest, off of Highway 84. See? They're similar, right? Okay, now to be fair, a lot of people I've noticed in Portland and Washington refer to it as the Pacific Northwest, but on the Boise side, we often hear it just called the Northwest. Maybe the people in Idaho don't want to be associated with the people in Oregon and Washington. Is that the reason? I'd love to see your comments. Please let me know below. Okay, now let's talk about another similarity between the two. Both areas are seeing a lot of growth. Seriously. If you live in Idaho, you probably can't believe that people want to move to Portland, but guess what? They do. The housing market has been booming for years, and no matter what's happening with the pricing, there's still a lot of people moving there and a lot of businesses opening there. I can't tell you how many new restaurants I've read about and all these different things that I constantly see on the websites. Now in Boise and the Treasure Valley, guess what? It's booming. People are coming from places they never thought they would come from. You know who I'm talking about, don't you? I'm talking about Californians. People from California are flocking to Idaho. I think they're in for a surprise when they get there, but hey, that's a similarity. Both places are growing and are seeing a lot of expansion, a lot of development. I try to follow as much as I can in the entire Northwest region, Washington too. And I see it in Portland and the whole Portland metro area, including Vancouver, Washington, where they built the Vancouver waterfront. There is a lot of growth in both places. Next on the list is item number 3. Both Boise, Idaho and Portland, Oregon benefit from a beautiful outdoor environment where people really enjoy spending time outdoors. The amount of people that I talk to that like to go hiking, fishing, rock climbing, bouldering, which I have never done, the number of people that I talk to that enjoy bicycling or just taking a walk as compared to other places is quite similar. People in both states, both Idaho and Oregon, really love the outdoors. And I actually want to tell you, in my own personal experience, it was not until I went to the Northwest for the first time, got my first place, that I really appreciated the outdoors. And now I love it. That's why I'm so excited to make a video outside. Yes, it's true. This guy actually likes to get outdoors. And it's really changed my life for the better. So if you live in a place where you never go outdoors, if you live in some big city, or you just live in a place where the weather is constantly terrible and you cannot appreciate the outdoors, the Northwest is absolutely wonderful with so many opportunities to go hiking. There's so many mountains, there's the Cascades, there's the Blue Mountain Range, there are so many places to go from Table Rock all the way around, whether you go eastern Idaho, northern Idaho, all over. There's so many opportunities to get outside. Now it's time for the fun part of the video. It's gonna be a little hard to say some of these things without kind of laughing a little because I have talked to so many people and they have so many opinions about which place is better that we're gonna talk about the differences between living in Boise, Idaho, the Treasure Valley region, and Portland, Oregon, which is the Portland metro region, including Vancouver, Washington, and the surrounding cities. And we're going to focus mostly on Multnomah County, which is where Portland is, when we talk about this. We're not talking so much about Lake Oswego, Clackamas County, and the different areas. Are you ready to talk about some of the differences? Well, this first one is going to be a huge surprise. Are you sitting down? Number 1, the politics. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, I've always wanted to use that expression. I finally got to use it in a video. Unless you've been living under a rock, you might have noticed that Portland is considered a very liberal and progressive city. You can feel it. It's palpable when you're there. There are political signs in many windows at many restaurants. The way people dress, the way they change their hair color, the things people say to you in conversation, the way they vote, all leans to the left. Now, depending on where you're watching this video, I'm not going to pick which side's left or right here based on my location because you might be watching it in reverse, right? Okay. Portland, Oregon, it's no secret, it's very liberal. No, it's progressive, okay? They have a lot of things there, a lot of policies, etc., that lean that way. Now, prior to 2020, it was often called like a hippie town and things of that nature. But after 2020 and all the things that have occurred, it has definitely become more divided and probably, in some people's opinions, more left. Okay? Some of you watching this probably like that. Although, after experiencing lockdowns and all those types of things during the last few years and all of the rules that were implemented and things that were pressed upon you, you might not like that anymore. That might be why you're watching this video. Okay. So whenever you talk about politics, you have to, realize you're talking to different kinds of people. But I will say that the lifestyle in Portland has definitely changed a bit from what's going on there. Now, that doesn't mean it affected every city around there, just to be fair. Lake Oswego, different city. Cross the border into Vancouver, Washington, whoa, totally different politics, totally different city. But it has definitely affected things in Portland, a lot of restaurant closures, and Portland is known for its restaurant scene. We're going to talk about that. So it definitely has had a direct effect on the lifestyle, which is why so many people have moved to the other city, Boise, Idaho. What's the difference? Boise and Idaho in general is known as a red state. It is significantly more conservative, and that's based on their voting patterns, not just how people talk. But you can see it in everything from how people will open carry weapons, or the fact that they can carry them without having them open based on the laws there. You can see it in the fact that they don't have the closures. You can also hear it when you talk to people, for sure. Now, that's not to say it's 100% a red state, but it's a red state. I mean, enough so that it's quite conservative. But how has that affected people's desire to live in Idaho? Well, if you're a fan of Portland and a super left place, well, you might be thinking, nobody wants to live there. It's boring. Really? You want to think about that for a second? A lot of people want to live there. You know why? Because they got to go out to dinner. They got to go out and have fun. They didn't have the closures. They didn't have those things. Guess what happens? Sometimes politics can affect your daily life. Now, a lot of us never thought that could happen, but it can. And I've seen a lot of people live through it. And when people go to Idaho, they notice a few other things too. The safety. They enforce the laws in places like Boise and the Treasure Valley. I've heard people say things like, don't mess around or you're going to find out. Things like that. You hear people say stuff like that. And when you look at the crime rates, guess what? It's different. Ask yourself a question. How many civil unrest events do they have in Boise as compared to Portland? Just something to ask yourself. Now, I'm not going to dive into all the politics or opinions and things like that, but let's just look at what actually happened. That's something to think about. Now, those of you who live in Boise, when you hear Portland, Oregon, you just think, why would anyone want to live there? They're crazy. They've got all these crazy rules. They've got homeless people everywhere. They've got all these different things. On that note, let's just dive into the next one. The next difference on the list is the amount of homeless people living in Boise, Idaho versus Portland, Oregon. Well, I've spent a ton of time in both places. I'm lucky that I get to enjoy both places, although I am certainly spending much more time in one of them at this point. And the homeless situation in Portland, Oregon, it is evolving, if you will. It continues to be a damper on the community, and it also affects safety. People are very concerned with it. People are allowed to live in their RVs. People are allowed to live in tents on public streets. Now, I realize that some of you think that's a humanitarian crisis. Some of you think it's a political crisis, but we're just talking about sheer numbers. Based on sheer numbers, Portland has dramatically more people not living in houses, apartments, or homes and living on the street, whether that means in an RV, in a trailer, literally just living in your neighborhood, things like that. What about Boise? So I can think of very few times that I actually see someone who's in this situation. Yes, there are people there who have the situation too. It's quite rare. I can think of a few times I saw someone under a freeway bridge, close to the skate park downtown asking for money. I've seen very few people ever ask me for money. When I'm walking through downtown, maybe I'm going down 8th Street and I want to get some coffee, nobody ever asks me for money. What happens if I'm in Portland? Well, if I'm in the Pearl District, it's generally pretty good. It's pretty nice there. But what if I was to venture to Chinatown? It looks like an outdoor camping site. And it's very, very different. And downtown has been dramatically affected. Downtown Boise doesn't seem to be affected at all. I wonder what it is. Does it have anything to do with the previous issue we discussed? Maybe. Okay, let's talk about the next difference on the list. And that is going to be urban versus rural. Now, what am I talking about here? Yes, Boise, Idaho is an urban center in some sense. It does have a downtown. It has a walkable area. They love to try to put in bike lanes, which I don't think people are using in the middle of winter. Maybe on a day like today they can. But it does have a walkable area. If you live in an apartment, you have opportunities there. There are some condos that I like down there. If you're interested in those, let me know. And if you're interested in condo living in general, reach out to me. I have a lot of experience with it. I actually do enjoy it. Yes, you Idahoans, I do like having a yard too. But you Oregonians, it's also nice sometimes to just lock and leave. The condo experience is nice. But Boise has a downtown. Boise has a walkable area. It does have coffee shops. It has theater. It has some underground video arcades, which is actually a similarity, by the way. Interesting. You both have these video arcades. And you do have that in Boise. You have that, but it's a small area. The downtown is quite small. From the Capitol building all the way down to the Boise Greenbelt, you have that area, and then it spreads out the other way. But it's much more limited. And Boise itself, downtown specifically, okay, very specifically, not Not like Harris Ranch, or if you go in any suburb at all, like Star, Eagle, Cuna, Middleton, they don't really have walkable neighborhoods. It's not an urban place. There's a lot of rural neighborhood there, and it's very different than living in Portland. Okay, Portland has a massive walkable area. You have the Pearl District, you have downtown, you have Goose Hollow, you have the Alphabet District, you have 21st and 23rd Street, all the way up to Forest Park. You have a lot of walkable neighborhoods. The urban center of Portland is very significant. You can live your entire life there without a car. Okay, that's very unique. Okay, you see that on the East Coast in places that Idahoans might not love also, such as New York City, right? I don't love New York City. Okay, it's fun to visit from time to time. I haven't been in a while. But if you want an urban lifestyle where you can walk around, yes, you have that. The other thing is, in Idaho, Boise is the hub. That is the hub. That is the center of the activity. If you want to do a lot of things, you'll need to go into Boise. And a lot of Boise is not walkable. Okay, you'll need a car. But the thing is, you have a lot more space when you get outside of the downtown. But when you're in Portland, you have a lot of cities around where you can have walkable neighborhoods, from places like Lake Oswego, like West Lynn, which are not in the same county, but they're just right the few minutes away, 8 miles away, 10, 12 miles away. You could live in other cities, and you can also live on the east side of the Willamette River, where you have walkable neighborhoods. Portland has about 96 neighborhoods, and a lot of them have walkability with food, restaurants, shopping, grocery stores, things like that. If you live in Star, Idaho, I guess it's possible you could walk to the Ridley supermarket in some places. It's possible you could walk to the very, very tiny downtown Main Street, but it's not the same lifestyle. And that's okay. That's why people want to live there now, right? People are appreciating these things. People appreciate the small towns. Those of you who come from big cities who've never experienced a smaller town way of living, it can change your life. You should experience it in your lifetime. It is very different. The feeling of community is very, very powerful. And it's something that you don't get exactly the same in a big city. Okay, now both places do have some feeling of community. People who live in Portland are proud of it. And people who come from Idaho in general, and people who live in the Treasure Valley, they have a strong feeling of community and pride, and I can appreciate both sides of it, but I can see how in a tough situation, the smaller town, more rural communities are going to have a quickly developing community which will support each other. And it might become a lot harder in an urban center. It's possible. Because when I travel, I used to like to try different restaurants and such. It's fun. I always looked at the top food cities. And obviously, of course, you have New York, San Francisco, and in North America, you also have Montreal in Canada. And then the next one on the list I'd always see is Portland, Oregon. They have a bustling food scene there. You have people from Top Chef who are there, people who have competed in competitions, people who've won James Beard Awards. There are countless restaurants representing a huge diversity of food, many of which I had not even tried before until I went there. I remember there was a restaurant in Portland I tried that had Georgian food. And no, I don't mean from Atlanta, Georgia. I mean Georgia, like in Eastern Europe, the country. It was a very unique experience. I'd never tried that. Now, to be fair, there's a Russian food restaurant, I believe on State Street or Chinden in Boise. But the number of restaurants you see with different types of food in Oregon, specifically in the Portland area, Portland Metro, including Vancouver, Washington, it's huge. You have a huge food cart scene, a huge food truck scene. You have all kinds of food. And if you live in Boise and you want to try a lot of new foods, check out Portland. Yeah, it's got its issues, and I'm sure you have different opinions on a lot of things, and Portlanders do, but it's okay because, well, the food could be worth it. I can't tell you, I'd never experienced so many different types of food, and it's incredible. The food scene there is really incredible, and the coffee scene, very famous. Many people would argue that although Seattle, Washington is known as like the king of the coffee scene, Portland definitely has a very strong coffee scene, many of whom's coffee products are sold in Idaho, right? Like Stumptown coffee, okay? That comes from Portland. In fact, there are a lot of products that people in Idaho probably know but might not realize come from Oregon, right? Like Beaver Foods. Obviously, you have Tillamook, the cheese and ice cream, comes from the Oregon coast, which is a cool place to vacation if you've never been there. By the way, I do want to mention, if you are thinking about vacationing or checking out either place and you're looking for a hotel, check in the description. In the link, we have a link in the description for people who are looking to vacation in the Northwest. Pretty cool. It's a website for people who want to learn about vacationing in the Northwest, and they might have some deals. And there's like a phone number you can call, and you can make a request online. The link is, again, in the description. So the next thing I want to mention is going to be the population size. Yes, they're very different. Okay, the Treasure Valley, for those of you who are watching from Oregon or another state who don't know what that is Boise as the hub. You've got Eagle, Star, Kuna, Middleton, Caldwell, Emmett, and depending on different websites, there's different opinions on what exactly makes up the Treasure Valley, but it's generally those cities plus maybe a few others that are right there. Nampa, of course, don't want to forget you. Meridian, don't want to forget you. You're like one of the fastest growing cities in America, of course. So much action going on Eagle Road now, Meridian, down by the villages and such. But the population overall for the metro area of the Treasure Valley is like around 260,000 according to many studies that I've read. Censuses in general are not perfect, right? And they're out of date, but say it goes up to 300,000. Okay, that's just as a relative number. Portland and the Portland metro area, which generally includes most of Multnomah County, that's attached to Portland, probably including Gresham, Lake Oswego, Clackamas, Happy Valley, those places, and Vancouver, Washington, which is across the Columbia River. That is, they said it was 750,000, but I've seen other studies saying it's almost 1 million people. So that's how many people have chosen to live there. That is likely because, different factors. There was a time when that was a really hot place to move for tech companies, like there are a lot of businesses up there. And despite the things of that nature, the taxes and stuff, it seems like a lot of businesses open there. So let's talk about the next thing on the list. The next item on the list is the business environment. This is something to really think about. If you are a small business owner, okay, or a big business owner, if you're a business owner, even if you work for yourself, you're a business owner, right? If you work from home, maybe it's different. But this is very interesting. The business scene in Boise, and I've been to several networking groups, like meetup type of groups, other types of business networking events, some parties, and I've met a lot of people, but the business environment does seem a lot smaller. You have a huge tech company there, you have Micron Technology, you have Simplot and the potatoes, I've heard people call them the potato people. You have the Albertsons Corporation, you have some big companies there, and you do have small businesses there. You have in downtown Boise, I saw an all peanut shop. In Eagle, Idaho, I saw a soap shop was opening, Idaho Soap Company. Very cool. I love seeing these small businesses open. It's so cool, it's so great just to get to try something unique and different. But you don't see as many unique restaurants and unique small businesses as you do in Portland. I actually see a lot of chains when it comes to restaurants in Idaho. And by Idaho, I'm not referring to Coeur d'Alene, I'm referring to Southwest Idaho, of course. All the way out to, Mountain Home, by the way. I was driving out there on 84, was checking it out, and I see a lot of chains, but I don't see a ton of small businesses. And when I go to the small business events, the networking events where you meet people, you meet entrepreneurs and such, it doesn't have the same level of energy. I have a friend there, and he is trying to build up his business, and he actually came with me to some other places. We had traveled to some other places where they have co-working spaces, so we could check them out and see the entrepreneur scene. He was shocked at how different it is in other places outside of Idaho, and he is born and raised in Idaho. Now, in Oregon and Portland, you have a lot of companies. Of course, you have the big companies, right? You've got Nike, Adidas, you've got Under Armour over there, you've got all kinds of big companies. Obviously, you have Intel out in Hillsboro, and all the things in the apparel industry that are located. There's a lot in the apparel industry located in Oregon. Columbia Sportswear, obviously downtown, I believe it's on 5th Street, has a flagship store. Nike has flagship stores. Nike headquarters is there. You do have also a lot of small businesses, and the restaurant scene kind of shows you that. You have all of these food carts that open. I see tons of micro businesses. I wanted to go on the river one day, and I wanted to get a kayak or an inner tube, something of that nature. I think I went with the inner tube. Kayaking, no. And by the way, if you're going to float on the Boise River this coming summer, I really like the inner tubes. Okay, I use inner tubes. When I got to the park, I was able to inflate it, get on the river. It wasn't stressful. I really enjoyed the float. Did it a few times. It was really great. But the guy said to me, I said, "Oh, is this your business?" And he said, "Yeah, I rent out these tubes and all these things I rent out." He said, I used to live in California, but he's like, but I needed a place that was really good for business. So I came to Oregon, of course, right? And he said it to me like all nonchalantly, and I'm thinking, well, is it favorable? I mean, the income tax is higher. The income tax in Oregon is much higher than what it is in Idaho. There are generally many more taxes. It's painful for a lot of people who live there. It's something to think about. If you're in Oregon and you're wondering why people move to Idaho, put that on your list. But anyway, the thing is, it seems like the entrepreneurial energy in Oregon, and specifically in the Portland area, is much higher. That's also reflected by the number of co-working spaces, like shared office spaces, where you see all these entrepreneurs constantly getting together. It's palpable. It's different. You can feel it if you're in that scene. If you're a small business owner and looking around other small business owners, there's definitely a different feeling. Okay, so I could go on forever. And when I was making this video, I kept thinking to myself, people are on both sides of the fence. Okay, if you live in Idaho, there's a chance, and let me know in the comments below. I really want to hear what you have to say about this. That you might think people who live in Portland are crazy. All they want to do is riot. They have these far-fetched ideas. They don't live a normal lifestyle. I've heard that so many times. Why? Why did I hear that? Because I had a place there. Okay? Does that mean I'm like that? No. I enjoyed the walkability. I have a place there. I'd use the past tense. I have a place there, okay? I enjoy the walkability. I love the Northwest. I love the outdoors. I love going hiking. I just love it. I love all that stuff, being by the rivers. And you know what? Not everybody has all of those opinions that you see on TV and things like that, okay? Some of us just want to enjoy it. Just want to enjoy the food, the walkability, have a lock and leave situation where you can just kind of not worry about certain things. And it's different in Idaho. In Idaho, I have a yard. I have to take care of it. I have services I have to do. I have to take care of things. Hey, guess what happens when the winter comes? I have to blow out my sprinklers. You know, it's different. It's different. It's a very different lifestyle, but I do appreciate it. I feel very happy when I'm there, very at peace, very relaxed, and I just don't have many of the same concerns. It's just something about the environment of Idaho and the people. The people in the Treasure Valley are incredible. Okay, I want everyone to know this. Like, they're so helpful. Everyone has been so helpful. If I needed something, people are there for me. Whether it's maybe you need a truck or you need someone to help you blow out your sprinklers, or they're just so inviting. It is amazing. Okay, now let's talk about Portland, Oregon. Those people who live in Portland think that people who live in Boise and Idaho in general, they think, oh my God, they're so extreme, they're so right. They all want to carry guns. Well, a lot of them probably might carry guns. Yeah, that's a thing there. That's what they do. And, well, I think you'd be surprised when you go to Idaho. Now, is it as exciting? Is there always something to do like there is in Portland? Is there always something new? Is there always a new restaurant? Is there always something going on? Is there always something controversial happening? No, it's much more peaceful. But I want you to think about something, okay? The politics do affect the places, right? You constantly have new concerns and new worries if you are in Oregon, especially if you're a small business owner. You have to worry about those things. There's the homeless issue, the safety issue. Not all of Oregon, I understand. I just want to clarify, Portland. I know those of you coming from other parts of Oregon, if you're coming from Cannon Beach, you're going to say, but we don't have that. I understand. But first of all, we should appreciate each other's differences, okay? But also look what's going really well in one place. It's not going really well in the other. And I think that when you travel between these two places, you're both off Highway 84. Why not check them out? Okay, it's like a 5.5 hour drive. The drive through the Columbia Gorge, beautiful. Okay, my wife and I have driven through the gorge several times. I love it. And you might actually appreciate the weather if you want to go skiing, of course. But it's a very different lifestyle. And when you see the things that don't go on in Idaho, if you live in Portland, and you see what doesn't go on in Idaho, you might notice, wow, it's so safe here. It's so clean. Everyone's so friendly. Have I mentioned how clean and safe it is? Okay. So, this video was supposed to be about comparing two things, but I want to remind everyone it's important that we all love each other, right? We're all Americans. We'll appreciate our country and all the great things it has to offer. And yes, even though there are differing opinions and such, well, there's probably a place for anyone watching this to live, right? Okay, so what are you going to do? You know what to do. I probably don't need to repeat it, but hey, let's just say it one more time. You're going to send me an email, send me a text message, give me a call on the phone, okay? Whether you want to move to Idaho or Oregon or Washington, okay? Because the teams actually cannot wait to help you with the Northwest in general. The love for the Northwest is something that I would say every member of the team has. And how do I know this? Because when we go visit other places, when my friends and I, or people who work in the industry, or who talk about moving or help people move, whatever their role may be. Maybe it's an age, maybe it's something else. People have different roles in the process. Even administratively, they say, oh, it's just so different. They go to Las Vegas and they see the desert. And they say, there are no trees there. I'm like, well, it's a desert. Now, Boise is partially a desert. Eastern Oregon is partially a desert. To me, sometimes I think that Oregon looks like something out of a book. I remember walking into the forest at Banks, Vernonia, and I'm looking around and it's this bright green. I'm like, what? Are we in a movie? This is crazy. It's real life. I had to stop and take pictures. Anyway, drop your comments below. Let me know where you're coming from, like as in your location. Are you from the Treasure Valley? Are you from Idaho in general? Are you from another state? Are you from Portland? Are you from Multnomah County, Clackamas County, wherever, Kitsap County? Let me know. I want to know your opinions. I want to know what you think about the differences and what preconceived notions you might have had about people in these two different places. Because both are incredible. Both are great. And both have a lot to offer. And, one right now needs a little more help. And hopefully they can get through some things. But there's still a lot of incredible stuff going on there. So, all right, everybody. I cannot wait to see you in the next video when we talk about living in the Northwest. And don't forget to reach out to us. Oh yeah, wait, what are you gonna do before you click the next video? What are you gonna do? You're gonna tap that subscribe button. Click that little bell. Now watch my next video. Take care, everyone.